Good morning, everybody. It is a super, super windy and cold Saturday morning here, Southwest Florida.
I don't know if I would call it cold, but
For us, it's cold because, I mean, if it's below 70 degrees in the morning, then it's cold. That's at least my marker. So this Saturday, I brought up some notes, and we were talking throughout the week, and it was about. I'll be honest with you. It was actually because of Elon Musk. Shame on him. That we ended up on a conversation of
what was the rocket had like they caught a rocket in midair, like the heaviest thing ever caught.
Yeah.
SpaceX thing. I don't know.
With chopsticks.
With chopsticks. And so we're not getting political at all. Like I said, I have too many contracts signed. We're not getting political. But what we found really interesting is, they were interviewing about the SpaceX and the rocket and like the work that went into it. But I mean, what we found interesting was like, how many hours of work, right? How many hours of work does he work a week?
Yeah. So he had said, and I caught this, just a glimpse of it, in one of his talks, 120 hours. At one point, he said.
I did the math. I was like, wait a minute.
Are there actually that many hours in the week?
And so the topic of this to me is so many people shame the hustle.
Yeah.
Like, stop shaming the hustle. Why are you shaming me because I want to hustle? Like, when I heard him talking, saying, I went from working like 60 hours, 80 hours, 120 to get this done. I'm like, why so many people shame the hustle? I get shamed all the time. Like,
yeah.
For just the amount of hustle I put in, and it's nowhere near that. But I want to talk about, like, what do you guys think about, like, the hustle, your work week? How many hours are you working? Or, in comparison, is it deep work versus surface work?
Yeah.
Right? I did a live the other day with some people, and this is going to sound funny, but I got off the live and I said, I felt like I just got shamed because of my hustle. And I said, it kind of made me feel bad. And so I want to kind of talk about like the hustle and how like to be proud of it. If it's something that you love to do, then freaking do as much as you want of it. Like, you don't need to go do something or relax. It is your relaxing.
Yeah. No, so here's my deal is when I heard him speaking, and the 120 hours, it was really confusing at first because I was like, he was exaggerating, he was joking. Yeah. But no, because I know that everything that comes out of his mouth is intentional, which is kind of scary sometimes. But 120 hours, it factored out 4 hours of sleep per day, I think, was the balance. And then he went into explanations about how he, we can go deep into this, but in the warehouse, he would actually sleep under his desk on the shop floor, on the warehouse floor, so that he would be right there.
But to get it done.
Yeah.
To get it done.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting over here, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm going to calculate my hours worked recently. And so I'm over here, I'm like, okay, well, I drop off Yaya at school at like 9:30, and then by the time I get settled in and, coffee in hand and computers open and whatnot, I ate and everything. I'm like, okay, so I start at 10, and then by the time I have to pick up Yaya and come back in, and then maybe I do another hour of work and da-da-da, I'm like, all right, well, crap.
How many hours did you do?
I'm working 30 hours a week. And
you're getting paid for 40.
And I get paid for 40. But the thing is that, again, it's this feeling of like not being satisfied, and I'm like, what the heck? It's because it's a combination of different things. And I'm looking at Elon, and I got pissed because I was like, gosh darn it, because I started having these thoughts in my head of like, I know exactly what I want to do. It's the time commitment. It's actually just getting it done. But, and again, there's the other topic of deep work, but I'm sitting here with 30 hours of work. I'm thinking through my day and my schedule, and I'm like, okay, well, shoot, well, where do things sit with like what I'm doing versus what he's doing? And I know this is a very, very stark comparison, but still, I wanted to have that dialogue. What am I doing versus him? And a few things that I felt I wasn't really doing great at, honestly, was again deep work. Things get a little bit scattered sometimes, and then we have Yaya and such, and so I took that perspective of him, 120 hours of work, considering his lifestyle. I think honestly I don't know him very well.
No,
but
we don't know him at all.
I think he has a kid.
He has a couple, I think, too.
A few.
I don't know.
But what I'm getting at here is that I can guarantee you that he's had a ton of shame in his life from other people, like randomly. And then I think back, I'm like, well, shoot, when does he have time to be a father? Or when does he have time to like take care of his kids and stuff? And then I got to thinking about just the way that he speaks and thinks, very quirky if you ever hear him talk. But what I took away from that is, number one, is my situation is different, of course, because I spend more time with Yaya. I commit to that. But I think the difference here was for him is that he has this, he has this obsessive vision and goal and drive in every single thing that he does in life. Like if he sneezes, it's intentional.
But it's also an end. Like now he probably does not work 120
Right.
hours because that happened
Right.
and it's the next thing.
Yeah. But I look back to that and I'm like, okay, well, if he has kids, if he has a family, whatever it is, I think to myself, like, how does this work in relation? And I honestly, I go back to it and I think, like, from him in the psyche of who he is, I'm like, okay, so the way that he thinks and the reason why he's working 120 hours is because there is a purpose that he's been pushed towards and driven towards that is far greater than just his own life, and he's stated that before, is that this is going to set the pace for things outside of his lifetime. And it's honestly, where his head is at right now is kind of scary because he's talking about
Mars?
Mars. He's talking about the entire human race. Like the way that he's thinking is in pace with the entire human race. It's about civilization. I don't know anything about him. It's beyond.
Except that he said he worked 120 hours. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I wish I could work 120 hours a week. I was like, the dream.
So if you ever read the book 10x is easier than 2x, it's the same mindset of, be your future self. Now, all these books that reference trying to kind of pull your future in to the present. What he's done is he's actually pulled it 100 times from the future into the present. And what he's doing is he's being hyper intentional. I say hyper because that's like a space word. Mm-hmm. But he's being hyper intentional about future 100 times from now, outside of himself, into honestly some scary thoughts of civilization, human race, things like that. And so the actions that he's taking are so full of intention that it's insane. And so for him, his intention, and I go back to like kids and life and family and stuff, is, and I mean this very neutrally, but I think that where he's at is beyond family ties and relationships, but he does have family ties and relationships in a caring and actual, like a human sense. But it's that his goal is so big and so powerful that anybody who is next to him understands and should buy into that vision, that 100x vision, to understand what he's trying to accomplish and where he's trying to go with that in the time that he's spending in that. So like I'm talking hyper intentional work. And so for him, I feel like there aren't any friction points in life because those are a waste of time versus what his end result and goal is.
Yeah, and I think, he's a little extreme for a comparison. Like someone else that we look at, that we're around a lot, is like Dan Martell.
Yeah.
Dude, like that man works, hustle. So Summer's on here. Like Summer, you're gonna appreciate this topic. It's like, stop shaming the hustle. I said I was doing a live the other day and people were like, oh, like, don't work as hard as Libby. Nobody can sustain that. I'm like, yes, you can if you want to. Like, why? Like, stop shaming the hustle. And we were watching, we were reading that like Elon Musk worked 120 hours some weeks to get the launch ready for SpaceX. And we were like doing the math, and I'm like, 120 hours, like, for me, that's like living the dream. I want to work 120 hours. Oh my God. And so, like, I love the hustle, and I think that if you love what you do, like him or like Dan Martell, that dude works night and day. He hustle. Then hustle, because it makes you happy. It's the thing that feeds you, and everyone's like, oh, you need to slow down and take care of yourself. Like, that is me taking care of myself.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
Yeah.
You hear the puppy in the background?
Yeah.
He's
The
playing
squeaky
with the toy. He always does it when I'm live. He always plays with the squeaky toy when we're live. But like, I have so many ways to go about this, like the hustle.
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to say is, for all of my entrepreneurs, stop learning new crap and just go hustle. We keep spending money, like signing up for like, oh, a new course, I'm gonna learn this and all that and this, and we're never implementing anything because we're trying to find the easy button. But when you get around really successful people, like people that hustle, I'm talking like, I got a front seat to watch Dan Martell build him from what he said he was gonna do to who he is now. Like,
before
the most popular book in the world.
Yeah.
Before he was. And this man did it in 3 years. And we sit here and watched it. Me and Chris are like, I was mad at him. I was like,
Right.
that a-hole did it.
No,
I
but,
was
but
like,
you saw it and
he
you got
did
it. You saw it and you understood it, because like meeting him, like if you ever met him in person and you talk with him, there's some kind of, I say weird, but unique things about him and the way that he engaged is that when he engaged with somebody, it was very intentional for that very
Yeah.
brief moment.
I get to see him next week.
Yeah.
I'll be in Chicago with him. He'll be there.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, and he hustles, and like, if it's a distraction, right? If the one thing that you're not willing to give up is that thing that's going to prevent you from reaching your dreams or your goals, right? What's that one thing that you're willing to give up? That one thing, whether it's sugar, whether it's carbs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's like letting go of the schedule, like letting go of sales. The one thing that you're not willing to give up is the thing that's going to stall you.
Did you say Netflix, by the way?
Oh, or Netflix.
Yeah. I think
Right.
that one's very important.
Yeah. And so, but the one thing I want to go back to saying, being in rooms with these people and having a front seat, is they're not off learning any new stuff, right?
No.
They're not off learning new crap, right? They are executors. Like, just imagine if you stopped learning and you just implemented the things that you already knew how to do, how much would you get done?
I want to actually circle back to that question also.
Like,
How
just
much
think,
did you get done?
How much would you get done? You know, and Michelle Kruger's on here. She's like, I needed to hear this. Like, we just keep trying to buy our solution. Like, let me sign up for this. Like, let me go do that. Like, let me do this course. And like, I did it too. And I told Chris, I'm done. Like, I'm not retaining anything. It's just going in one ear and out the other. And I'm wasting time sitting here just like learning. And it's the same stuff. We're all learning the same stuff over and over and over.
Yeah.
Just said in different words, which is great sometimes because we need to hear it in a different way. But for the love of God, I had to stop learning.
Oh my goodness.
And start executing. And that's why you see the momentum that I've just made recently. Stop learning.
We made that switch. And so I wanted to circle back to that statement of, you know, how much are you actually executing and implementing? What do you think the camera's, yeah.
The camera loves
think,
me.
What do you think, where do you think you are operating, where do you think you are operating right now with your current knowledge versus applied knowledge? So I want to say this again, is how much of the knowledge that you currently have are you actually applying? And that I wanted to open up.
So I'd love to hear it in percentages.
Without learning or doing anything new, what percentage of the knowledge that you currently hold are you actually applying?
That we hold in our head, that we've learned, that we've paid for, that we went to conferences for. How much of that knowledge are we actually applying?
I would honestly, if you guys even, it's I don't know. For me, it's I can't even think about it.
Too little.
I would like to say probably like 1%.
And that's why I finally had to say, I got to stop. So in 2024, I actually dropped out of a lot of things because I needed to stop learning. I needed to stop. I would have you guys like read a book and then you're like, I don't know what the heck I just read. Or you watch a module and you're like, oh crap, what did they say? So I dropped out of a lot of stuff so that I could just, one, stop wasting money because it made me feel like I was buying my answer just because I paid for a course.
Yeah.
Oh, like there's my answer. But then I never did the course. Or I did like one module and then I'm like, they said the same crap, I already know that.
But hold on, but you already know it, but you haven't implemented it.
I know.
You haven't applied it. So that's another 5%.
Yeah,
that you're just paying money for that you're not going to use that you already know.
Yes.
It's still sitting there.
And so the one big distinction that I see, like being around some of these high level people, and you're talking like they're grossing like $100 million a month, $10 million a month, is that they are just, they're done learning. I mean, how much more can we learn? Yes, I think there's always great to refresh. Like refreshers are phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
We always need reminders, refreshers. But we have to find, and I had to let go of somebody in our company because that's all they were doing, is they were learning, innovating, ideas, ideation with very little execution happening, and like that, we can't afford that, right? And the owner can't afford that to do that either. And so I love this topic, right? Everybody's saying it's in the notebook waiting, right? But how often do we go back and read the notebook? I found my notebooks from like years and years ago. It's so funny to look at them. But I'm like, oh my God, I learned this 5 years ago. And they just literally talked about it in the course I was doing. And
I'm like, I thought it was amazing, but I haven't implemented it yet.
Yeah. But the other thing I want to talk about on this topic is, the working 20 hours. Chris did his and it was 30 hours.
Oh my goodness.
And I told Chris, I think I'm gonna go to bed early. And I was, God dang it, Elon Musk. I was like, 120 hours. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go to bed.
I think it was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and I'm like, I let Libby know. I was like, hey, I'm gonna get up and start working.
Yeah, he got up and worked. I went to sleep.
I honestly, I shamed myself because I knew exactly what I wanted and what I wanted to achieve. But I'm sitting here on a thought of knowledge, not applied knowledge. And I'm like, what the heck is stopping me from just taking this thing that literally it's like this juicy piece of knowledge and I'm just sitting on it and letting it burn.
So Summer's saying, she goes, I always think I need more courses. I need more. I'm like, if I stop, you know what? And Teresa's saying the same thing. I still need to hear this. You know why, if you're not taking a course, why we think we need more courses? Is because then we actually have to go do the stuff. And the doing is not sexy. The doing is boring. The doing is not what visionary owners like to do, right? We like to learn and ideate and envision and imagine, but we don't like to do the doing. But the successful people that I see right now, they can put that feeling aside and say, hey, I need to heads down, get this done.
Yeah.
I don't care if it takes me 20 hours or 120 hours. I got to get it done. I can do nothing else until I execute.
Yeah.
And you see that happen. So this becomes now time management. Mm-hmm. And there's no such thing as time management. If you're trying to practice time management, I call time management, I'm stealing it from Dan, it's kindergarten. It's kindergarten versus deep work. Learning how to work in a deep state of deep work, intentional work, is high school, college thinking versus time management is kindergarten because it's what everybody teaches, it's what everybody's trying to control, and there's no such thing of it. You can't manage time because you cannot control how fast or slow it goes.
Yeah.
Right? So you're trying to manage something that doesn't exist versus focusing on that deep, deep work. How do you get in that state of deep work? How do you eliminate distractions? Do you want to read some of the comments?
Real quick, sex transmutation, that's why.
Sex transmutation is one of my favorite things. And if you've not read Think and Grow Rich, that is where I've learned to take emotions and feelings. And he talks about it from a sex standpoint, because it's the strongest emotion that a human has. But you can use other emotions. And how do you take those and implement them into other parts of your business or life?
Yeah. When I read it for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I can really relate. If only I could harness that same drive. But I've felt it before in just very subtle hints in different parts of my life where, again, they call it different things. Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance, the Angela Duckworth, that book, she clues into it as well. It's a state of flow. It's, I think, Daniel Kahneman, some other psychological books, same thing. It's the state of flow. It's feeling like you're in the clouds, like you're outside of your body, pushing or executing or doing this thing with such extreme intentionality that it literally you create like an untapped energy source. This is more of like a spiritual thing, but like you start to create this endless potential of energy that drives you to continue doing these things. And I think that's where the point where I've talked about Elon earlier is that I think this is the state that he's in right now, is an endless source of energy or drive that's beyond or outside of himself. And so when we look at him like he's nuts, it's because he honestly is in such a pure state of flow. And that's the reason why 120 hours is, for him, effortless. And how he gets so much, again, I say like massive things done. It's just, for me, it's just unbelievable to think about. And I know that I was supposed to be reading the comments, but I just I dove right in. So let me just take a second here. I just want to circle back.
So I'm going to give you guys some tips on how I manage deep work. So I work a lot more than Chris does.
Yeah.
That's our arrangement.
Yes.
Because we do have kids, and I am managing Organize It and Recruit and Service Cart and some other stuff and book writing, and that's the arrangement. So, and he's okay with that. The kids understand that. I work more. But like some of the things of how I manage the ability to do deep work, right? Summer calls it in the zone. Yeah, in the zone, right? First one is you really want to focus on like people and environment. You're going to have to eliminate distractions. Like you're going to have to, there are some people that you may have to, separate yourself from because they keep taking you out of that state of deep work. Like, oh, let's go sign up for this.
Yeah.
Oh, I just signed up for this course. Let's go together. Like, and they're still your friends, but you're going to have to kind of eliminate some of the people and the environment. You want to make sure that you're around people that you're constantly, that are constantly helping bring you up.
Yes.
And not you dragging them with you.
Yeah, and I want to quickly touch on something that I think will be a little bit controversial, but I just need to say it, is that in this point in my life, I don't believe in friends anymore, as much as I believe in the power of...
Well, if you're Chris's friend, I'm sorry, he just hurt your feelings.
But it's a misnomer. Friends is a misnomer. What we really need are acquaintances.
Yes.
And this goes in line with, and I know that there's been some biblical references and other things in terms of how you live your life, is that you should live your life in a direction. And if you have anybody else that happens to share your life, it should coincide with that direction. If for whatever reason your direction changes to over here, but somebody else is on that path, you shouldn't need to change your direction in order to continue pursuing what you need to do. And this is the problem that people have in the idea of friendships, is that you are staying on the path with somebody else and getting off of your own. And this is where people really get screwed up.
Yeah. I was in a really bad accident a few years ago. I don't really talk about it very much. And because of that bad accident, I had to go to a psychologist because I had some pretty bad PTSD after that accident. And where I was like scared of my own shadow for a little bit. So that psychologist had told me, he's like, friends are like rocks. Too many of them and you're going to drown. They'll drown you. And because one of the reasons why I was struggling to get over the accident I was in is because one of my friends kept bringing me back to it.
Yeah.
Like bringing me back down. And I was trying to get better and grow and change my mindset. But kept bringing me back down. And so that phrase that psychologist said, friends are like rocks. If we have too many of them in our pocket, they will drown us.
Yeah, and
I just thought that was like, oh, like, and sadly, so let me keep going with the people
Sure.
and the environment, right? You want to make sure that you have positive energy around you all the time. It's that addition by subtraction. Sometimes I have to remove some people from my life so that I can help more people.
yeah,
Right? I can't just help this one person because maybe they're needy, they're negative, they're struggling, they have issues, and yes, I want to be there, but it's the addition by subtraction. Is maybe I have to remove myself from this group or that group so that I can then do more. I can then help more, instead of just helping one person or a group of people. And you also have to make sure that when you look at this, right, this is how I get in deep work. This is how I get things done. These are the things that Libby does, I'm talking about. And I learned these from, honestly, I learned these from Dan Martell. And you want to make sure that the people that are around you are coming with you, right?
Yes.
They're coming with you. You cannot be dragging them along, right?
Yeah.
It slows us down. So that is one huge thing. Energy and alignment. You have to, like I just said, have alignment. Me and Chris know exactly, like, he's fine with me working more. Like, hey, I'm going to do this.
and so energy and alignment, that goes in with, we've talked about it before, which is the introvert and the extrovert, or the entrepreneur and the intrapreneur, or visionary and integrator, whatever you want to call it. But let's just say that you have this drive, you have this energy to do something, and then you have somebody who's pulling the reins or pulling you back and saying, I don't know, it seems a little bit risky, or I don't know, are you sure you want to open another business? That's the energy. I think that kind of, again, same thing, is the same path, is mismanagement of the same type of energy.
Yeah.
Can break down.
Yeah, but that energy and alignment is like, I'm in 100% agree. Like I 100% agree with what we're doing. We each agree.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. I 100% understand it and agree. I'm in alignment of that. This work is going to take a lot from me, but I have agreed to do it. I'm signing up for it. I'm not halfway in the door, like with one foot in the door and one kind of like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then, aligning on, the energy and the focus that you need to achieve the goal. Like, we all want to be $1 million cleaning company, but do you know, like, the amount of energy you need to achieve that? And are you willing to do it? I had a coaching call with somebody, and I was trying to tell them they didn't want to interview. They were like, oh, well, I don't have time. I'm too busy. I have other things going on. I don't want to interview 5 days a week. And I said, well, the only way you're going to get to $2 million is to take interviewing seriously, and we need to interview this many times a week. And she goes, well, then maybe I don't want to be a $2 million company. Alignment.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not willing to put in that much work, like, I have to be aligned that this is going to take an X amount of work.
Yeah.
And if not, I'm not going to achieve it. It's just a dream.
Yes.
It is just a far-fetched dream.
Yeah.
So really having energy and alignment with your family, alignment with yourself. We are such liars to ourselves.
Yeah.
And then planning for success. Believe me, this stuff does not happen by coincidence. I do not believe in luck at all. I believe it is strategically planned. Planning for success. Planning your day, executing on it, doing your to-dos, stop your distractions. Every Sunday I used to, and I don't do it on Sundays no more, but I remember every Sunday when I first started, I would have like, what's my week look like? Plan it all out. Now it's already planned.
Yeah.
So you have to plan for your success. You have to plan that you know what your day-to-day looks like. You have every minute of your day planned. Because if not, you're just wandering around, and then it's the end of the day and you're kind of like, what did I do all day today?
Yeah, no, so here's the other, and I think of this as like one of the like cardinal sins of progress is it's confidence bias. It's called confidence bias. This is when you, again, and I'm sure that everybody knows what this is already, but it's overestimating your abilities in the time to what you feel is possible. And it's because subconsciously our brain, if it exists in our brain, we have a just kind of like a subtle or innate sense of it being true, even if it's not. So when you think about, oh, it's going to take me 30 minutes to get to the other side of town, when you darn well know it's going to take 45 minutes.
Yeah, we lie to ourselves all the time.
But in that instant, in that moment, because we recalled it from our own memory, we think of it as absolute truth, and we have this confidence bias to where 30 minutes, again, you're talking about like the low road versus the high road. This is
I did it
instinct.
yesterday. I had to go to the doctor, and I said, oh, I can get there in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
It did not take
it's
20
confidence
minutes.
bias. It's things that are going to rob you of progress because it's the low road. It's that innate that instinct, as opposed to, again, like you said, is with planning for success,
Yes.
is making sure that you're planning without any confidence bias and saying, oh, this project's going to take me a day to finish.
Yes.
It's going deeper into that.
Oh, no, and I think we lie to ourselves. Like, when you do your quarterlies and you set your goals, your rocks, your business to-dos, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this quarter. You are lying to yourself, because it takes 100 times longer to do something till it's complete than we think it's going to take. Like, how many times have we done that? Oh, let's make a customer rewards program. And then you put it on a Google Doc and you're like, well, that's done. No, it's not, because we haven't even implemented it.
Yeah.
So it takes like 100 times longer than we think it's going to take to do it right. So she said, Teresa said, can I circle back? And I can drop the notes in after.
Yeah, so she said, Libby, please circle back about how you get into deep focus.
These are all the things I do. Like, it's not like just stating, it's not creating a state, Teresa, it's adjusting my entire life so that I'm always in deep work.
Yeah.
So I'll drop them in. Also, we have a Facebook group called the Higher Profits Tribe, and it's how to live a more profitable life, not money profit necessarily. How do we get more out of life? And in there we have like some of our couples retreat stuff and planning, and it's just how do you live a more profitable life? Because profitable is an abundance.
Yeah.
So feel free to join that one. But Teresa, it was, people and environment is 1. Then I did energy and alignment was 2. 3 is planning for success, practicing the perfect week, having every minute of your day planned. Because here's the thing, if someone with number 3, with planning for success, you can't just say, hey, Libby, you want to have coffee today to me? And I can't say yes. Like, dude, my calendar, my life is planned to the minute. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you my calendar.
Yeah. And instantly I think to myself, and I'm laughing because Helena Garcia was asking earlier, or no, it was somebody, it was her, asking if I make a list of the books in the comments because we were like rattling them off. But the book I always reference, and this is honestly one of my favorite books of all time, is The Courage to be Disliked, from the Japanese psychologist. But it was, again, the idea of saying no. It's being comfortable with the idea of saying no, because it's the purpose, it's the flow, it's a sense of community, it's the greater purpose. So don't feel bad about saying no. Don't shame yourself into saying no. Yeah. But it's how to do that and still feel great about continuing with that vision, that greater purpose. Sorry, tangent.
Yeah, tangent alert. But Summer just said, Libby, me and Faith were talking about this and you. Ooh. I was telling her that I really want to share my story. I think everyone should share their story. There are so many different ways, books, social media platforms, because we all can learn from each other and create a platform for those that are stressed. We're all stressed. and recovery and those kinds of things. I like fearlessness, but on a more of a spiritual level. Faith was like, you should talk to Libby. She's doing all these things and finds a way to make it work. I do. Yes, I do, Summer. It's just, Summer, it is 100% intentional, deep work. And that being said, I'm more passionate about like my journey because I'm helping more people, the addition by subtraction, right? Environment and people. I've had to give up things. I really had to give up things, and sometimes some relationships have ended, and friendships, and I've had to give up some things, but I think on the other side of it, it's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's part of my journey.
Yeah.
And but I still find time. Like I went to have dinner with the basketball moms the other day. I hadn't seen them in a long time, and so I'm getting back into. I can still do this journey and sharing, but also still like have those acquaintances and those friends.
And that's an intentional time.
And
that
it
you
was
set.
intentional because I organized it. It fit my schedule. I organized it. There's a great book, another one called, no, it is kind of boring, but again, if Dan tells me to read it, I read it. And it was called Never Eat Alone. It's a sales book. But anyways, I think that's a great idea, Summer. So let's keep going. We were number 3 with planning for success. You have to plan your day. If there is a hole in your day, you're going to fill it with useless crap, probably. Like just useless. So plan your day. You will achieve more. These high executors, these people that grow in front of our eyes and you're like, oh my God, look at how smart they are. They're not smart.
Right.
They're not smart. As much as I love Dan, like he's not a rocket scientist. He is just an executor, like high level doer, eliminate the distractions. One of the best things I've done is to cut out carbs and sugar.
Yeah.
I am not trying to get anyone to do any kind of diet, but dude, I can execute like nobody's business. When I cut carbs and sugar, and then more now now we're carnivore, but I mean to no end. And you have to look at that. Like, am I not achieving as much as I can because I'm not healthy? And, you know, I was looking at pictures from myself from the past, and, you know, I was like looking at them, I'm like, oh my God, I am so ugly. I was so ugly. And I was like, you know what? I wasn't ugly, I was unhealthy. I was unhealthy. And I think that sometimes we get used to feeling like crap. I'm gonna get muted because, and that we just think that that's the way we're supposed to feel. Is we're supposed to feel like crap. Oh, I'm getting old. I'm supposed to be tired. Oh, when we get old, we gain a little bit of weight. And I think that we've just like said, oh, that's normal. And it's not normal. My goal is to have abs at 45. And I turned 45 on February the 27th, and I will show you my abs. But it's not normal to just like justify, that we should feel like crap, that we can't retain anything, that, we've gained 20 pounds, or, I have brain fog, or I'm tired, or I can't concentrate. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's our body telling us that it's unhealthy. Because again, you go back to those high achievers, and it's that thing that you're unwilling to give up is that thing that's going to slow you down.
Yep.
And so number 4 was, mastering, we call them the 4 levers or the 4 skills. Some of this may not be, like applicable to you, but I think it's very, very important in mastering these 4 skills, right? You have to have an understanding, to me, of like technology and AI and where it's going. This is how I do deep work. I want to know where it's going. How's it going to change our industry? And this helps me do deep work because I need to know which way we're going. What are we working on?
Yeah.
Right. I'm not playing with AI. I'm using it. I'm learning from it. I'm learning how it works. We have to really have a really great, we have to have our heads around what our message is and what we're doing, right? Because I need to be intentional with every post, every reel, every social media platform, and what we're doing. Because then I'm on there playing. Like, what is my message? Like Summer said, I want to do this. Yeah. Because then I get sucked in, and then I'm like, oh, look at this cute puppy reel. When it comes to really mastering these 4 levers is, you do have to have, and it's not necessarily deep work, but it's the ability to do, like, how can I move fast, right? Capital. If you want to make big changes, you need money.
You either need money or resources.
Money or resources. And a great example is I wanted to write the book. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to share my message. as a woman entrepreneur, as a mom, as a wife, as someone who came from an abusive, ex who was an addict, and I lived through that, and that was absolutely horrible, but it didn't define me. And so I wanted to write the book to share, like, hey, like these things don't define us. Like Summer said, I want to share a book on stress and recovery and spirituality. And so I wanted to write a book, but that took a lot of money, a lot of money. And so because I wanted to do it right? I said, okay, ChatGPT could write me a book, but I'm like, no, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it right and fast. And we went in, and I had the money, deep work. It gave me the ability to focus, deep work, get it done, hired the people. We're done. I'm done. I did my last book writing session on Thursday. Like, we're done. So you have to have some money or some resources. And it's not necessarily, that isn't necessarily deep work, but it's to achieve the things that we will help us move our needle faster. And then my favorite one, and this is where the book comes into, Never Eat Alone, is collaboration. And so I think that we all think about collaboration, we think of people as friends, and Chris said, I don't have any friends anymore.
Yeah.
It's actually collaboration. Mm-hmm. And that book, Never Eat Alone, is great on this topic when it talks about collaboration, building and leading teams, but not in your company, in your life.
Yeah.
I know if I need anything, Summer's got me as far as hey, that's part of my cleaning team. And so does Teresa. And anybody else on here who's watching in the cleaning industry. I have my cleaning team.
Resources.
They're resources. We're all building our own teams of resources to help each other. And I think until we look at it that way, when we do deep work, we don't have the resources we need to achieve speed.
Yes.
Right? Because then I can just reach out. So I need to understanding. So to do deep work, I really have to understand these 4 categories so that then I can move faster when I want to execute. Right? It's understanding software, AI, just a basis of it. Where's it going? How's it moving? How can I make my business move faster with it? Having a clear direction of what is our message? What is our journey? That way we're stay on track, kind of like your vision. Having money or resources, because it costs money. It's sad to say, every time I want to do something, guys, dang it, I need more money. And it takes, in that collaboration, we're building our mini teams of resources. So they're hey, I want to do this. Can you help me? Hey, I want to learn, and it's been great. When I wanted to write a book, mm-hmm. I asked Dan, here's the writers, here's the publishers. And he said, I'll write my forward. Great, done. Let's execute. And that was my mini team for that. So I could move fast, I could move deep, and I had the money to do it.
Yeah. And I always go back to this always stuck with me is for any exponential organization, they need 3 things in it, and it's adaptability, flexibility, and speed.
Summer, if you've not read Exponential Organization, it is a software book. It is the bomb diggity.
Version 2.
Version 2.
It's a ridiculously hard and difficult read.
It is. If you're not a software owner, don't read it.
Oh my God, it would put you to sleep.
Yeah, don't read it. But it's where I got the idea from for Woot Recruit. It's how you build unicorn companies, and a unicorn company is $100 million in 10 years. No.
You're talking about Amazon's, Uber's.
Yeah, Amazon, Uber's, Airbnb's. It's the basis of what those are made off of.
These are kind of beyond.
They're unicorn companies.
Again, the same topic of being having a vision beyond yourself or outside of yourself. The same thing with companies is that is a driver, or exponential organizations are outside of their own selves, of their own companies.
Yeah, and so on that topic, if you guys are really interested in sometimes I think we should stop learning about let me go learn on how to be a better leader. Let me take another course on that. How many courses and books can we read on this? We know the answer. But you know what I do to really learn is, and sometimes it is boring as crap, but man, you get a really good understanding of what it takes to build a big business, is I read the biographies of like, I read Elon Musk's, I read Bezos, I read the guy who started Nike, and you get an understanding of what it takes to do that, and you're kind of like, he was an a-hole. Like, oh, that wasn't very ethical.
No, and maybe a good example if for those that are trying to get away from Netflix as a distraction, while you're on Netflix, watch, oh my gosh.
Oh, the Rocky.
No, McDonald, oh my goodness. Why, the McDonald's.
Founders.
Founders.
Founders is good. There's some really great ones on Netflix on the story of like Rocky Balboa and how he built that empire. But the reason I like the biographies is because you can get an idea in your head of what kind of person it takes to achieve that. And do you want to be that kind of person? Like, you don't have to be them, but you have to see like what they went through, how hard they work.
Yeah.
Like,
Zappos, yeah, the shoe.
Yeah. And the Zappos, the shoe dude. Like, you read Bezos, and like the way they come out with Amazon Alexa was that he I'm not sure if you guys heard that. He locked everybody in a conference room during Christmas, and they missed Christmas. I believe it was Christmas. It was a holiday, and they couldn't leave until they finished the idea. He forced ideation, and you're kind of like, wow, that was ballsy. But dude, he changed the world. Like, you could say, you could say he was not a nice guy, but I'm like, dude, they got it done, and the people that built it, they built a great product.
Teresa, hers did it too.
Yeah. So, if you're wanting a better understanding of what does it take for the hustle, like, the biographies of people are great. I'm a big Audible person, and I don't do the whole Audible. I'm an 80-20. I'm like, I listen to the chapter, I listen to the beginning. If you've ever read the 80-20 book, it tells you not to read the whole book.
But here's where I get upset, is just because we say, go ahead and take a look, or go ahead and do this and read it, or read about somebody, is there's two different things that you can do with it. Number one is read about it and say, oh, that was a good book. Done. And the other thing is to take every piece from it, analyze it, break it down, and say, what is relevant to me, and how can I apply this?
Yeah.
Again, intentionality, deep focus, and execution. If you read the book and you just absorb the knowledge and do not execute on it, that is the cardinal sin of, I think, success.
Yeah. I got to this year to where I was just rereading the books that really impacted me instead of reading a new one and reading a new one and reading a new one. I feel like our brains cap out. And I think I read Think and Grow Rich this year, because we're almost done with the year, 6 times. You can ask Chris. He's probably like, how many times is this chick going to listen to this chapter?
Over and over.
Over and over and over. Because it told me in the book to listen to the chapter until I had it memorized. And so I did it. And it told me to do like the affirmation. So I did it. And so this year was my year of going back and rereading the greats that really impacted me, instead of like trying to go learn more new. And it's not new. Here's the thing. Has anybody read anything, anywhere, or taken a course anywhere that was actually like information or new information they've never heard before? Like, it's innovative, life-changing.
Yeah.
It's been rare since that has happened. So we're regurgitating and I'm just writing a book. And the book writing process is you're just referencing books.
Yeah.
You're telling stories and you're referencing books. And if you read other people's books, they're telling stories and referencing other books.
But it's in the version and how it applies to you.
It's in the version and the verbiage that's used that hits people differently.
Yeah.
So let's see. Summer said, I need the name of that book. Yeah. We'll try to drop all the names of the books that we mentioned. I agree with biographies. Yes, Netflix and YouTube's, their stories are definite. They help. They help you understand, like, hey, maybe I'm not that kind of business owner. Like, maybe I don't have that in me to do that. Maybe this is what I want instead. Because, the hustle, like, again, I'm tired of getting shamed because I like to work. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
I like to work, and I just want to work more because I want to achieve more. I want to leave more for my kids. I want to do more for my family, and I want to change more lives. And that's what makes me excited. My like rest and relaxation is creating. It's building.
Yeah.
That's what makes me happy, not necessarily going and getting a massage.
Yeah.
So, we're not all built the same. But for the people who love to do this, dude, baby, run with it, Summer. Just do it. Like, let's stop getting shamed for the hustle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, me and Chris are like, let's pull an all-nighter.
Yeah.
No. If I say that out loud, people are like, "Oh my God, Libby, you go to sleep."
So here's the deal, and Summer said something here, and I want to lean into this. Is she said she's gotten to where she'll start a book and start like writing these new things need to do. So lately, I've been avoiding books, if that makes sense. 100%. We went to conferences. We've done these exercises in the conferences, and let's just say that there's 4 speakers in total throughout the entire day. We're like, all right, the first speaker hit. This is exactly what we needed. Screw everything else.
We left the conference.
We're gonna go sit in the lobby and hammer this out. Intentional, apply it, create it, implement it, execute.
Yeah.
I don't care what else would have been said, because if I would have stayed, nothing would have gotten done. And we would have just been net zero.
Yeah. So we went to a conference. We flew to Phoenix for the conference. From Florida, we flew to Phoenix. And Gage is here. Hey, Gage. Gage is my son. He's my adopted child. He went to school with my oldest son, so we love Gage. We've known him since he was young.
Oh, yeah.
Great. And for those who are like, oh, young people don't want to work, dude, Gage is like hustler job. Like, he's 25
and grateful
and
too.
Grateful and polite. Anyways, we flew to a conference, and we needed, what was it? Was it churn? It was customer churn. It was churn, right? It was churn. Like, we were churning customers, like we were losing customers. And that was the first teach of the conference. And it was great. Me and Chris had all these notes. And I told Chris, I said, I don't want to go back in there. I'm like, I'm done. I said, this is all I needed. If I go back and watch any more, and it was the first teach of a 2-day conference.
Yeah.
I won't remember it. Like, if I keep learning and I watch all the other speakers, I'm not going to retain it. And this was great. I just want to go do it. So me and Chris didn't go back. We stayed there at the hotel.
Yeah.
And all we did was sit in the lobby and actually get it done. For the first time ever going to a conference, we actually executed on the thing that we learned and implemented it into the business in its entirety.
Yeah, and what I found incredible was, and you think of yourself like, oh, I got to go because I paid this money and there's so many great speakers, and if I don't go, then I'm going to feel bad, and da-da-da. If I sat in there and if I would have listened to everybody, what would have ended up happening, and I'm gonna say this, because I absolutely love learning new knowledge from amazing people, but if I would have sat there and stayed and listened and watched and whatever, end of the day, coming back out, the flight home, I more than likely would have had this emotional low of insecurity or anxiety because I did not implement, or there's so many things that I want to implement that it breaks me up inside. And then once I get home, you're overloaded, you don't know where to start, and nothing gets done.
And all the to-dos come back that you put off while you were gone.
And you paid thousands of dollars for whatever it is. Whereas if we took that perspective and we just saw one thing, we sat in one thing, then we executed the rest of the time, going back and saying, the output of results. Do we feel great about the output of results for what we invested in? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was funny because the people that were putting on the conference were like, is everything okay? Are you guys upset? You haven't been back in there. Like, no, it's great. I said, I got exactly what I needed. It was the first teach, and I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
So it was great. So yes, Summer, I agree. That's why I haven't read any new books this year. I haven't, I actually read Never Eat Alone because that was on my list. But that's more of not actually doing anything. It's more on how to view and approach relationships when it comes to business and achieving your goals.
And I read that too because it was something that I also needed that was very timely.
Yeah. So there's not necessarily a bunch of to-dos in that one, but then don't read exponential organization.
If you're not ready for it.
If you're not ready. It's like the EOS of software. And I read that book before we had a software.
Uh-huh.
Don't ask me why. Well, I know why, but
Yeah.
we read it before we had a software.
Yeah.
But I think this was a great call. Like, hey, if you love to hustle and you have a vision, or if you just want to make money, like, hey, it's not shameful. Like, some of us just want to make money. You know, hustle away, pull all-nighters, do what you need to do. Because I also think there's an end to each one, and then you can relax, and then you can do. But if you're relaxing every day,
Yeah.
and here's the thing that I have to tell all of you guys, and you're going to hate me when I say this, is that you are not going to achieve your dream working 9 to 5. There's not enough hours in the day. You have to do more. You have to execute more. It's very, very unlikely that you're going to achieve your goals, right, working 9 to 5.
Yeah. And to Teresa's statement from earlier and her personal excuses, and I'm just going to lean into this, Teresa, is the whole ADHD, and I know you mentioned that you keep telling yourself that you have ADHD and that's why, or that's kind of the justification out of it. But I think what we learned is that people who have ADHD typically are more successful to execute. If the things, again, think of like short spurts of intentionality, is if you create intentionality out of that ADHD, then you can be the next Elon Musk.
Yeah, we all have ADHD. And Teresa, when you say that, you are self-sabotaging yourself. We're using that as an excuse that we can't get to what we want, or we're using that to justify maybe that we're going slower, or that. And so don't self-sabotage by saying that. You know, me and Chris told each other to call us out on that self-sabotage. Most ADHD people have like these hyper gifts. Like we are gifted in a different way. So stop fighting the ADHD and start leaning into it. And this is in another book called the EPT book, and it's a little tiny book. You can read it in one day. And he covers every successful person has ADD or ADHD. We all operate on the spectrum somewhere, some more than others. I am super sensitive to smell, sound. I'm super sensitive. Like, it drives me nuts. Like, if you ever go to a conference and like you get a headache, it's the halogen lights. It's your entrepreneur brain is so sparkly that it's sensitive. And so also it's so sparkly that sometimes we have a hard time concentrating because we're easily distracted. Like I said, smell, sound, light for me are triggers. And so he talks about if you can learn what your superpowers are when it comes to ADD or ADHD or dyslexia, because we have the other side of it where we have something amplified.
Yeah.
Use the amplified part. Like, use the part that, oh my gosh, I don't need to try something I'm okay with reading and doing. Like, where Chris would need to like try or research.
Yeah.
We can take more risk, right? Sometimes we can read and implement. We can focus more if we don't have the distraction. So lean into that instead of saying, oh, it's my ADHD. Instead of saying it's my superpower, but I need to learn that superpower. Learn it.
Yeah.
Harness it. After I read that book, I learned so much about myself that and then I know why I turn into a you-know-what sometimes, a BTICH, because I was like I was overstimulated.
Yeah.
And it would make me turn into like a horrible mom. I'd get snappy and like get short with the kids, and but we operate on the spectrum slightly, and you have to pay attention to your body. Again, also the food and the sugar that we're putting into it and the carbs is also putting those ADHD things on hyper mode.
I want to say that it actually dulls.
Or dulls it.
So here's the thing with ADHD is that your focus shifts quickly to other things. And so here's the deal. And ADHD is like, in order to make it work beautifully, is that whenever you have that attention shift, is that you just go full deep in on whatever that attention shift is and make it a habit so that every time you switch, it's not a bad thing. It's not a subconscious thing. It's an intentional thing where you shift and go deep, and then you shift, go deep. But what happens with, again, like sugar, carbs, whatever, is that those shifts are dulled. And so you can't, they're more subconscious and you have a hard time grabbing onto them and going deep.
Dude, yeah, roll with it. I mean, you would think that I literally am on some sort of speed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chris is like, oh, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'm leaning into that short attention span, but when I work deep. I can do something in 15 minutes. It takes someone 7 hours to do. And then I'm done. Like, oh, next thing.
And these are major projects, too.
Yeah. Like, I'm building out entire, like, marketing funnels. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Next day, like, and then I just shift and I go deep and I go hard and I eliminate the distractions. Because you can ask Chris, I've learned to eliminate the distractions. It's like people talk to me, I don't even know that they exist.
Yep.
You know, my phone is constantly on silent, constantly.
Yeah.
If you ever try to call me or text me, you know, I take a while to, not a while, but I don't answer instantly because my phone never interrupts me.
Yeah.
Because if it does, I wouldn't be able to concentrate or get anything done. So I love that, Teresa. I love, yes, you said exactly. I've been using it as an excuse. It's your superpower. But I think what we do in business, you know, the guy that owns Virgin Airlines and all the Virgin hotels, what's his name?
Russell Brunson or Branson?
I don't remember, but Russell, yes.
Russell B.
He had dyslexia he still has major dyslexia to the point that he could not even read a P&L sheet until he was a billionaire. But
let that sink in for a second.
Yes. And the reason is, and what they had to do was he had to create a way that he could understand his numbers, and then he actually made it an obsession. But he still has dyslexia. He still cannot read a traditional P&L sheet. And it's one of those things where instead of saying, oh, it's my weakness, it's, hey, I have to lean into this and figure out how can I understand it? How can we make this for me?
Yeah.
And go deep on it. The same thing with like Elon Musk in an interview, and it's covered in this book, this EPT book. And they asked him, well, what gives you, like, why do you think you're skilled enough or qualified to build a space program? His answer was, because I read a book about it.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's an entrepreneur. We read something, we're like, ooh, let's do it.
Yeah, but his capital and his resources are so expansive that he knows at the drop of an idea that he doesn't need to know everything about space. Yes, I can tell that he does know a lot about certain things, maybe just surface knowledge, but when he goes deep into those resources. He taps in hard.
Yeah.
Again, it's the intentionality behind the greater purpose, and it's not shame, it's not insecurity, it's not anything. It's unfiltered and raw, which is scary, but extremely powerful.
Yes. So it's time to wrap this up. I'm hungry.
Yeah, we're gonna go eat.
We've been on for an hour. This was a great call. Again, embrace your hustle. Embrace your ADHD, your ADD, your dyslexia. It's a superpower. Most entrepreneurs have something. And let's embrace the hustle if you want to. And if you don't, great. Like, who cares?
Yeah, and I did drop in, by the way, we're still trying to get things moving along, but the book when is that planning to come out?
Yes, we dropped in the link. If not, also, you can go to like libbydelucian.com and sign up for like early release of the book. It's still a little ways out, but it's going to be great. And we're excited because we're going to launch a children's book as well. And Yaya's going to launch a podcast to help with that children's book.
Which I'm excited about.
And she's super excited, and she's over here listening to us because she always wants to help. And so we said, what better way to help than she can launch a kids podcast and talk about the book. And it's going to be leadership. It's going to be around leadership, and empathy and how that's a superpower, not a weakness. And Yaya's gonna share on that with her on her podcast. So stay tuned for that as well. We have lots of things that we're doing and working on.
Yeah. We go deep.
We go deep, fast, and hard.
Yep.
Have a great weekend, guys.